Hello, Big Tube. Hello, friends. Welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth. And in this video, I'd like to share with you my experiences of reading the Bible in 90 days. Yes, that's right. I said it. I read the Bible in print from February 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 2021, which is actually 89 days. And I just wanted to share with you a little bit about what that was like. A few of you have asked me what I'm planning to do next. And so I thought I would just kind of start by giving you a little bit of my history of Bible reading. And it's not that much, not as much as you would think. But, looking back, I see God's hand in all of this. And this was really the perfect time for me to do this. If I was ever going to do it, this was the perfect time. So I've been a Christian since I was 12. I grew up in church. My family were all Christians, and my parents really did, I think, a great job of raising me and helping me to understand that there were ways and things that I should do to live my life that would be to my benefit. I'm sure my mother must have prayed a hedge of protection around me her whole life, my whole life, because I was really spared from making any of those horrible life-changing decisions that people can find themselves falling into. And I'm so thankful that I did not have to suffer a lot of consequences of things like that. And I don't need to go into details of the kind of things I'm talking about, but you can imagine. Not to say that I didn't do some bad things. I certainly did. I'm human, and we, like we all are. But I mean, I never had to worry about trying to get off drug addiction. I never had to worry about alcoholism because I never tried any of that stuff. So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And I just appreciate my mother so much for teaching me about the world and what I should do in it that would be better for me, and for teaching me about God and leading me to a relationship with Jesus Christ. So that is kind of my background. Now, through all of that, I am 56 and a half right now, and in my lifetime, I had only read the Bible through one time prior to 2018, and that read through took me several years because I got started on it pretty young as a teenager, and then I got bogged down in the Old Testament, and some of that stuff is just hard to read. That is why a lot of Bible scholars and pastors and teachers will tell you start with the New Testament and read that first before you try to go back and wade through the Old Testament. And now that I have, read the Bible through a few times, 3 times now total, I see that. I see that as definitely being a benefit, because if you, especially for a new Christian, if you haven't grown up in church and been exposed to the Bible and Bible study for, a good bit, the Old Testament is just hard. It just really is. Not to say you shouldn't read it, because you definitely should, but I wouldn't start there. So anyway, now that being said, I don't even know how many years it took me to read the Bible all the way through, because I would start, I'd read some, and then I would leave a placeholder there so I knew where to come back to. But I would read other bits and things, and throughout my life, I've always been in Sunday school and church, and did participate in different Bible studies and things like that. So I was always reading parts of the Bible. I'm talking about just reading it from beginning to end. So in 2018, I did a little challenge that I called 20 by 20, which was basically a stacking the series challenge of 20 stacks. And the way that's set up is you have a stack of 1, and then a stack of 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And I had a stack of 20. So I picked for my number 1 stack to be the Bible. And so I took 3 years, from 2018, January 2000, well, actually I didn't start until February 2018, through December of 2020, and I read the Bible at an average of about a chapter a day. It works out to be a chapter a day for 3 years, with, I think, 36 chapters, not 36 chapters. Why do I keep saying that? I filmed this part of this once already, and I got bogged down in the same place. Enough chapters left over that you would need to read 2 chapters a month for 3 months. So basically, if you're going to read it over a 3-year period, then 1 month out of all 3 of those years, you read 2 chapters. Or you can do what I did, basically. I doubled up and read several a day when I got in Psalms, because a lot of the Psalms are very short. So it still averaged out to about a chapter a day. You know, that was pretty much what it was. So I thought I was doing good, because there had been a couple of other times previously in my life that I had tried one of those read the Bible in a year schedules, and you had to read about 3 chapters of the Old Testament. And at whatever time I was in my life then, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't make myself do it. And so I just kind of gave up. And I thought, I'm not going to do this. I'd rather just read it in small increments and not follow a schedule, which might seem kind of weird to some of you, because like now in my life, I'm pretty good at following a schedule. But I just I had just never, I've never read the Bible completely in one year. I've never been able to follow one of those schedules. Not that I've tried that many times. I just kind of gave up after, 1 or 2 tries. My mother did it a good bit. So I established finally a few years ago a pretty good habit of reading the Bible, or reading a devotional, including a little bit of scripture daily. I think when my kids were pretty young, before they got involved in a lot of activities in school, I was able to do it fairly faithfully, and that was when I first got some of these Journey magazines in around, because some of the ones that I still have left hanging around were from like 2007, 2008. So these are the ones that I didn't read, which makes me think that it was probably like 2005, 2006, when I was really trying to form a good habit of reading a devotional page every day and a little bit of scripture. Then, the kids got in school and I was working, and it was just harder to get up, and not hit the ground running, and have to, I would have to jump up, get the kids to, ready and go. And by the time, I would get them off, and then I would maybe go to work or have, whatever to do at the house. Then it was, I just couldn't, I get, basically, I did not stick to that. So a few more years roll around, and now I'm on BookTube. But I think even really before BookTube, I was able to start forming better habits somewhere along the way. I'm not really sure what to attribute it to, or when I finally made myself get back to it. I did finally get back into a habit of reading a devotional every day. Oh, I know when it was. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So it was around the same time that I started BookTube. Well, maybe not quite that far back. But a friend of mine gave me one of the Sarah Young books, Jesus Calling. And I let it sit around for a while. And then I was working for a lady who I used to drive for, because she couldn't drive. She was an older woman. And she gave me a copy of the same book. And I had 2 copies. And I said, okay, God, what are you trying to tell me? That I'm supposed to read this book? So I started forming a plan for how I was going to do this. For a little while, I had to put it in the bathroom. To be perfectly frank, I had to put it right in front of me, because we have a shelf with towels, it's right there in the bathroom, and where you can't miss it. And I started eventually to form the habit, because in past years I had tried to do it at night and I would fall asleep. So I'm trying not to make this too long, and now I'm just rambling. Basically, I finally found some faithfulness in being able to do it. And then I started really enjoying it, and I was eager to get up in the morning and get my Bible reading done. Probably it was when I was doing my 20 by 20 challenge, and knowing that I needed to make sure that I read that chapter every morning. And so then I started picking up devotional books, because I was already, I had already established that I was reading devotional books every day. I had read the Sarah Young book, Jesus Calling. And then my same friend who gave me Jesus Calling, then she gave me another one by her called Jesus Lives. And then I started just kind of finding devotional books here and there. Now, in 1998, I did read a copy of My Utmost for His Highest. I still have that here. That's probably the most classic daily devotional book that, that it's still being published today. And that was the year I got married. I always remember that was 1998, because that was the year that we got married. So anyway, I I'm trying not to lose my train of thought, and I get off on tangents. So basically, what I established the habit of doing, if you want to call it habit. I know a lot of times Christians say, don't call it a habit. You want to be faithful to it and not just call it a habit. But I would read my Bible, and then I would read a page out of whatever devotional book that I was reading, and then also a page out of the Journey magazine. And then I could go on about my day. If I still had any more reading time, then I might pick up another Christian book, or I might pick up some other nonfiction book, because the morning is the best time now. It never was in my earlier life, but now it's the best time for me to read. And I find that I have a harder time finding any other reading time other than the morning. So that is kind of the habit that I have established. Now, right at the end of that 3-year period of reading the Bible, I did do a video where I talked about my morning reading structure, how I structure that, and what I do. And I will link that video down below, or I'll try to remember maybe to put it up here so that if you are interested in that, and if you haven't seen it already, you can. So, but it's fluid though, because what I was reading in December of 2020 is a little different than what I'm reading now, except that whatever I read still contains scripture. So let's fast forward now. So at the end of December 2020, I finished reading the Bible over a 3-year period. And I thought, wow, that's great. Now I can say I've read the Bible 2 times in my life. And I really liked the experience of stretching it out over 3 years, because I could digest it in small amounts. And I really enjoyed that experience. I wasn't trying to cram too much in. I was just reading it basically a chapter at a time. And I think that was a very positive thing to do. So if you have struggled ever with trying to read the Bible all the way through, or even to read it in 1 year, if that seems too much, try it over a 3-year period and see what you think. So then, we got past the new year, and it was January, and I was kind of like I am now this month, just sort of breathing a little bit and thinking, okay, I'm not sure what I'm going to do now. I had been reading during 2020, my devotional book was A Year with C.S. Lewis, and this has a lot of excerpts from some of his classic works, and I had really enjoyed that. And for Christmas, our pastor's wife gave me a devotional book by Lisa Turkhurst. It's called Embraced. I didn't bring it in here. So I thought, okay, well, that's what I'll read starting in January. And it had only 100 devotions, so I just finished it in April. And then our Sunday school teacher, who is also one of our associate pastors, wanted us to read More Than a Carpenter by Josh McDowell. So I picked that up and started reading it. So that is what I've been reading for the first few months of this year. But near the end of January, our pastor, who has only been our pastor since mid-December, he's actually an interim pastor, but he's fantastic. He came up with this idea. He mentioned it a few times, and he said, we're going to read the Bible in 90 days, and we're going to come on Wednesday night, and we're going to talk about, we're going to teach through the Bible in 13 weeks, and, this is what we're going to do. So I'm thinking, oh, we're just going to hit the high points, are we just going to read a little bit here and there until we kind of get because he kept saying, you'll get the overall picture by reading it that quickly. And I'm thinking, surely, there's no way he's talking about reading the whole Bible in 90 days. So I didn't even really think of that as an option. So I brought the paper home, and I gave one to Katie, and then I didn't really look at mine, except that I noticed, I was just looking at the columns, and there's just, if you go down this column, it's just one verse. And I was like, Katie, you could do this. It's just one verse a day. She comes back a couple hours later. She goes, Mom, it's not one verse a day. It's chapters. And it is. It's about 12 to 14 chapters a day, which is a lot. And at that point, it was February 1st. It was the evening of February 1st. And I looked at it, and I thought, oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? And I kind of said to God, really, you don't expect me to do this, do you? And he kind of said back to me, you just finished 430 books in 2020. Are you trying to tell me you can't read this one book in a 90-day period? And I thought, Well, I guess I could. And so I just felt led to do it. Now, this was the paper that I had brought. I had brought home an extra for Katie and for Randy. This was Katie's paper. She didn't do it. She's been busy finishing up high school, but this was the paper I brought for her. Now, this is my paper after. See the difference? Yeah, mine. I used mine as a bookmark for where I was daily. But basically, my average day during these 89 days, I would wake up in the morning and start the coffee, and then I would sit down and try to read a chapter or two while it was brewing. If I had gotten up super early and I was wide awake, I could go right on and read another chapter or two. If I had had a late night with Emily, who sometimes has insomnia and has a hard time sleeping, I would sometimes get up, make myself get up, and sit down, and by 2 chapters, I would have to take a nap in the recliner before I could wake back up and read some more. And every once in a while, I didn't get my chapters done until later in the day. Really, probably only a very few days. Well, I would say probably no more than like 15 different days out of the whole 3 months did it take me till noon. Usually I could get it done by 10 a.m. Now, I'm retired from a theme park job, of which I only worked part-time up until COVID. And so I'm not, and with both the girls home doing e-school, I don't have to get up and get myself dressed and leave the house early. My husband does. So he's been doing just like 1 day's worth of reading every Sunday afternoon, and he's going a little more at a, more of a slow pace than I am. But basically, I would get up, and sometimes I would start and get some of my Bible reading done. Sometimes I would break it up a little bit. I would read a few chapters. I almost never could sit in one sitting and read more than 2 or 3 chapters without getting up to kind of, because I tend to get drowsy when I'm reading. So I would have to get up, refresh my coffee, and then sometimes I would go ahead and read my journey page and before I moved on to another chapter, or my page out of my devotional book, or something like that. And sometimes I would just read that first and get that out of the way, especially if I was getting a late start. I'd go ahead and get those smaller things done, and then I could take my Bible to the kitchen table, and I could keep reading while Emily was starting her e-school, or something like that. But for the most part, even though I'm a really slow reader, I could get done by 10 a.m. Now, sometimes, though, that might not sound like very much time, but I'm talking like I would get up at 5 or 6. You don't have to. It just depends on how fast of a reader you are. And that's just how I managed to do it. So that's kind of what my day looked like. And I did not let myself read any fiction reading or other types of books that I was reading until I had gotten my Bible reading done and my other devotional materials, or go on my phone. Very rarely. There was a couple of times, and invariably, once you turn that phone on to check whatever, you can be on there an hour. So I recommend, if you're going to do a project like this, do it first, right off the bat, because it can take some time, and you don't want to wait till the end of the day and then fall asleep doing it, because let me tell you, if you get behind, it's a lot to catch up on. Now, I did get 1 day behind when I was on my trip to Texas, because I was driving, and I didn't listen to any Bible on audio. I only read it in print. So while I was driving, because I was driving there, I didn't stop as much. On the way back, I tried to kind of make up for that lost day. I don't know that I ever completely made up for the day. So what I did was, because this reading plan is a 90-day schedule, it was really an 88-day schedule with 2 grace days. So I think what I ended up doing, and I would have to go back because I think I talked about this in a video. I came to a point where I was finishing one book of the Bible and starting another one, and it was on 1 day's reading, it had you finishing one and starting another, and I thought, okay, So for this day, I'm gonna just read the part to, like I like let's say I was on day 50, and I went ahead and read day 50's reading, and then half of day 51, and then the next day I read the other half of day 51, and then day 52, so that I got myself back on track. And then I did the, figured it all out and saw that that would get me finishing exactly on April 30th. So that worked out well. Now, if I had read it any other time other than February, like if I hadn't had a February in my schedule, there would have been a couple of extra grace days. But I started in February, so I didn't have the luxury of having any extra days, and I definitely wanted to finish up by April 30th. So the plan that I followed, it's got a few sponsors here. This is from a blog that is from Haven Ministries. It says this is sponsored by Zondervan, and someone did a blog post on haventoday.org. Now, on our schedule, it says http://9090daybible.haventoday.org. Now, I'll put that below, but I'm also going to put the actual address for this PDF, because if you go now to this address that's up here, you're just going to get the blog, and you have to search around a little bit. So I finally did, and I found the PDF of this actual page. Now, I don't know exactly who put this together or what method they used to do it, but there are a few divisions here that I thought were a little strange, and I'm not sure what the thought process was behind it. It's almost like it was computer generated, and maybe the computer didn't allow you to go over a certain number of verses, because there were a couple of times where it would stop you for one day with maybe 3 to 5 verses left in that whatever chapter you were in. And I thought, well, why would I stop here? I need to finish the chapter. And then I got to thinking, maybe it's because they want you to come back and read that thought to continue on into the next chapter, that last thought in the previous chapter. I don't really know. But I usually would go ahead and finish the chapter if it was so close to the end. If there was, if it was a huge chapter and they stopped you right in the middle, I would usually go ahead and stop. But anyway, I will put this schedule below. Now, there may be other 90-day schedules, and I don't know that this is necessarily the best one. This is just the one that our pastor presented to us, and this is the first time I have ever heard of anyone reading the Bible in 90 days. And then after I started doing it, I could have sworn I heard another booktuber talk about reading the Bible in 90 days, and I think it was Chantel at An Intentional Life. But then I mentioned something about it in a comment, and she didn't confirm that, so I may have just heard her wrong. So I'm not really sure. If you guys know, you can tell me. Or Chantel, if you watch this, let me know if you did it and what schedule you followed. So I think this was introduced in a blog post on this website, and our pastor picked up on it and challenged us to do it. So that was really why I did it. Now, I don't necessarily think this is a great idea for someone who has not ever read the Bible all the way through, because like I said earlier, I really would recommend that you start with with the New Testament. And I really do recommend that. And I don't know, if whatever season you're in your life, there's nothing wrong with reading the Bible. I would always recommend that you read the Bible. But for me personally, this challenge came at a great time, because I had just finished reading the Bible slowly in a 3-year period. And so by doing that, I still had it fresh on my mind. And then by doing this in a 90-day period, it was such a positive experience, because I really saw how it all knit together so perfectly. And it was really an amazing experience. It definitely was. So, was it really hard to do? Yes, it was. It was very hard. Some days I did not always want to read that much, and some days I didn't really have that much time, but I would make sure I fit it in somehow. And I would definitely recommend it as being a very positive experience. So, what am I going to do from here? Well, you know, I had about a month off after I finished reading the Bible in 2020 before I started reading it, in 90 days in February. So this month I think is kind of my rest month. I am going to read Mere Christianity with Krista from Books and Jams and her read along. I think that is going to be a really good thing to read, especially since I read this Year with C.S. Lewis, because I said in December after I read this that now I want to read all the C.S. Lewis books, and I've only read a few. But I just was kind of looking on my shelves. I've got, you probably can't see from here, but I have several devotional books that I've never read and several really great sounding Christian nonfiction books that I've never read. And I really want to explore my shelves now and possibly do some more in deeper, intense studies of particular books of the Bible, and rather than reading all the way through, maybe like Romans or Acts or Hebrews, I don't know, just wherever the Lord leads me to go, that's what I want to do. But I was just looking on my shelves and I found a devotional book that I had forgotten I had. I think I picked it up at a library sale and I've just dropped it on the floor. So let me pick it up and I'll show it to you. So when I was doing my May TBR video, I mentioned that I had one health-related goal, and that is to get back to some better eating habits. And so for my specific May goals, I said that I was going to swear off of ice cream and cookies, and that my exercise goal is to walk at least 6,000 steps per day. So I've been able to do that so far for the month of May. I missed a few steps last night, but there was part of the time during the day that my phone was charging and I didn't have it on me. So I'm pretty sure I got in my 6,000 steps. So I'm not too worried about it. But I have successfully done keto in my life, and I gained it all back. I lost a lot of weight and I gained it all back. In fact, you can see that in the progression of my videos, because when I started my channel in 2015, I was very thin because I had just lost 50 pounds. And then I went back, over the course of these last few years, I have just gained it all back. So I don't ever want to do that again. So I'm trying to learn how to eat in moderation and eat healthier and lose weight, but yet eat at a pace that I can live with for the rest of my life. So I won't lose it as fast this time, but I definitely want to lose it and then keep it off. So I had all these weight loss goals in my head, and I found this on my shelf. I didn't even know I had it. Daily Word for Weight Loss, and it's a spiritual guidance to give you courage on your journey, written and edited by Colleen Zook and Elaine Meyer. So I'm going to read this too. I'm excited. I had said to myself that I was not going to jump back into another devotional book. I was just going to read my journey magazine and then try to also catch up on some of my current reads and things like that in the morning while I still had some reading time. But I think I'm meant to read this right now, so I'm going to do that. So I have this and Mere Christianity and then my journey magazine, and that is what my morning reading is going to look like. Now, I will probably at some point pick up, I kind of want to explore my Christian nonfiction and just see what I have. And this is not a full year's worth of devotions. So by the time I get done with this, I want to kind of look through here and explore what else I have and possibly go ahead and pick up another nonfiction book in addition to this. Maybe by the time I finish Mere Christianity, then I'll definitely pick up something else. So I don't have any plans right now to start over reading the Bible again from the beginning, unless I do it on audio. I have not listened to the Bible on audio in a long time. I did have audio cassettes of the Bible a long time ago, and I think I mentioned this on a previous video. I ended up giving those to an over-the-road truck driver because I figured he could get more out of them than I was. They were just sitting around not getting used, and I'm happy with that decision. I'm glad that I did that, but now I'm pretty sure that the Bible on audio is available on Hoopla, and so I will probably pick up and start reading on audio maybe not right away. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a breather and just pray about what I should read next. And that is my plan for the next the next reading project, as far as inspirational reading. So have you ever read the Bible in 90 days? Do you usually read it in a year? Have you ever even read it all the way through? Let's chat in the comments. And if you want to watch my video about how I structure my morning reading, I basically kind of went over it with you in this video, but I do have that other video that I did back in December of 2020, and you're certainly welcome to check it out if you are interested. Also, I had a question in the comments not too long ago about books, devotional books that I would recommend. And I did say that there are several, and definitely My Utmost for His Highest is probably the most read one and the most classic one. There's two versions of that, though. I had a really hard time reading the original kind of Old English version. It was very wordy and very difficult. There is a more modern, updated version that I read in 1998, and that's the one that I would recommend. I also, a few years ago, read a book by Billy Graham called Unto the Hills, and that was an older book, but I really enjoyed it. The books by Sarah Young, Jesus Calling, Jesus Lives, things like that, they are written as if it was Jesus talking. And at first, I was a little taken aback by that, because I thought, who are we to know, what Jesus would have said? But I kind of read about it and some of the author's notes, and I'm confident that she took the actual scriptures that Jesus said in the Bible and just expanded on those and paraphrased those. So I don't think there's anything there that really, there's no lessons taught in those that Jesus didn't touch on and encounter and teach on in the Bible. So those are definitely good books to read. And I'm going to read some more. I've got some random ones on my shelf, and as I read more, I will, continue to let you know about them. This C.S. Lewis book, A Year with C.S. Lewis, it is very deep and philosophical, and it really makes you think. Sometimes I would have to read and reread sentences until they finally kind of soaked in, but I'm so glad I read it. It's just very thought-provoking. And the book I just finished, Embraced by Lisa TerKeurst, she is very open and honest about all the things in her life, and I just think that it was very refreshing and very heartfelt. So if you would like to pick that one up, then I definitely enjoyed the reading of that one. And that's about all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed to my channel, I hope that you will. At this point, I'm just about 30 people away from 2,000 subscribers, and it would be really fantastic if you would subscribe if you haven't already. I normally don't ask people to subscribe, but it would just be kind of fun to hit that milestone. So I would love to chat with you in the comments, even if you have never chatted with me before. I would love to hear from you. So that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.